My boyfriend cheated on me with my best friend and tried to scam me out of money. I made one phone call and his company went bankrupt. It's been 5 years since I fell in love with Kenny. I plan to withdraw the inheritance my parents left me before they passed away to help him get through his company's crisis. But I never expected to discover that he was secretly in contact with his ex-girlfriend. Who doesn't know that Su Ching loves me to death? Chloe. Once I get her money, I'll break up with her and marry you. All right. The company is in trouble. Is it? Then I'll give you a helping hand and make sure it goes under completely. After all, if you love someone, you should help them overcome all obstacles. Right? At that moment, I was breathing heavily, my whole body trembling, with Kenny's words echoing in my ears. Su Ching. She loves me more than anything. Who doesn't know she loves me to death? If it weren't for her decent looks and the large inheritance her parents left her, I never would have been with her. Chloe. Don't worry. Once she withdraws the money and the company gets through this crisis, I'll break up with her and marry you. Take a deep breath and pull your hand back. I resisted the urge to push open the door and confront Kenny directly. I turned and went downstairs. Sitting on the sofa in the living room, tears streamed down my face like broken pearls. I had chased him for 2 years and been in love with him for 3. Saying I wasn't hurt would be a lie. I sobbed quietly, afraid Kenny would hear me crying. But his voice suddenly echoed behind me. Susie. Is dinner ready? Kenny came downstairs and stood in front of me. Why are you crying? You're an adult, crying like this? Did you find out you're pregnant and are you overjoyed? He wrapped his arms around me and pulled me into his embrace. He then served the rice from the rice cooker, took my hand, and led me to the dining table, pressing my shoulders down and making me sit. Susie. Let's go to the bank to withdraw some money after dinner. Looking at the smiling face before me, I felt a sense of strangeness for the first time in my life. Don't you want to ask me why I'm crying? Don't you want to know what happened to make me feel this way? Looking at the meat Kenny had placed on my plate, I put down my chopsticks. Let me guess, is it because you're pregnant and going to marry me? So you're too happy? He said this in a light tone, his voice cheerful. Kenny looked at me with affection. Once we've resolved the company matters and weathered this economic crisis, I'll give you a home, and our baby will grow up happy and healthy. Will you really marry me? Clang! I slammed the chopsticks onto the table. I stared at the man in front of me in disbelief. This man who had occupied most of my youth. A fleeting expression of awkwardness crossed Kenny's face before he smiled. Of course I will. Susie. What are you thinking about? Are you doubting my love for you? He pushed a bowl of soup toward me. Susie. Drink some soup. It's good for your health and helps cool you down. Finally. I couldn't take it anymore. He was always so gentle and soft-spoken, brushing off every problem with a casual wave, as if I was the one who was immature and unreasonable. I picked up the soup bowl and smashed it on the ground. Why did you wait until your company was in trouble to marry me? Why didn't you mention marriage in the past 2 years? I shouted at Kenny in a fit of anger. Kenny's expression froze for a moment before returning to normal. Susie. The past 2 years were the company's startup phase. I was in the midst of my career's upward trajectory. Now that you're pregnant, isn't proposing marriage a normal thing to do? What's wrong with you today? He was still pretending, dodging the real issue, using my pregnancy as an excuse. He didn't even mention how he planned to use my money to get through the company crisis, then dump me and be with Xinjiao, living a happy life off my hard work. Suddenly, I didn't want to give Kenny a chance anymore. It felt pointless. How long do you plan to keep your relationship with Xinjiao a secret from me? I heard everything you said upstairs earlier. My tone was icy as I lifted my head and stared intently at the man across from me. The air froze for a few seconds, time moving as slowly as if half a century had passed. Kenny's face was a mix of panic, embarrassment, and regret, eventually settling into calm. Is it because of this? I was just joking. Xinjiao has been contacting me for the past 6 months, causing trouble for our relationship. To dispel her feelings for me, I said that on purpose. Once the child is born and we're married, it'll be too late for her to back out. She'll naturally give up and stay out of our relationship. A man's words are lies. This is something I've only come to clearly understand through Kenny. Do you believe that? Coming up with such a lame excuse in just a few seconds is quite an effort on your part. Kenny's furrowed brows revealed his impatience. Su Qing, what do you mean? I've already explained. Why are you still fixated on those few jokes? He shouted at me impatiently, his eyes hiding an anger that was both defensive and unconvincing. Let's break up. Before we get married. I'm tired. Like a deflated balloon. I had exhausted all my love for him in this argument with Kenny. Kenny heard what I said, snorted, and his expression turned cold. Break up? What nonsense are you talking about? Everyone in Manhattan knows we've been together for years. Don't forget. When your family fell on hard times, everyone shunned you. It was me who agreed to be with you, allowing you to get through that difficult period. He reminded me of my past, word for word, without a care for my pain. Back then, my parents died in a car accident when I was still young. All my relatives refused to take me in, saying I was a bringer of misfortune. A star of misfortune destined to be alone. But Kenny, whom I had been pursuing relentlessly, suddenly changed his attitude toward me. He agreed to be with me, to accompany me through the tough times, and gradually helped me emerge from the shadow of losing my parents. Yet now, everything he did for me back then has turned into a sharp knife piercing my heart. It hits me right where it hurts. Everything he did for me has now become a weapon he uses to threaten me. I let out a bitter laugh, and tears once again welled up in my eyes. What happened back then was indeed something you helped me through. Over the past 3 years, we've been together for so long. I've supported you in starting your business and done my best to be a devoted wife. Even if we're even now, let's part ways amicably. I looked at Kenny in disappointment. Have you thought this through? What about the child? Have you considered what will happen to the child without a father? He furrowed his brows slightly, his gaze fixed on my face, studying me intently, as if puzzled. I'll have an abortion. Since you and Xinjiao are in love, there's no need to hide it anymore. I tried to appear calm, wanting to give this relationship a dignified ending. After all, we've loved each other. There's no need for adults to make a scene. After going upstairs and packing all my belongings, I looked at the small suitcase in front of me. At that moment, I realized that after living together for so long, I only had so few things. I loved him so much that I had forgotten myself over the years. Loving oneself before loving another, changing the order led to my current situation. Carrying the suitcase downstairs, Kenny watched me leave with a cold expression. I found a hotel to stay in and scheduled the surgery for the afternoon. But when I saw the hospital report, I was completely stunned. It clearly stated that I was not pregnant. After consulting the doctor, he explained that it might be because I had eaten too much cold food recently, causing my period to be delayed. And since my menstrual cycle was already irregular, this had led to the misunderstanding. Earlier, Kenny had gone out drinking and came home drunk, causing a scene. We didn't take precautions, and my period hadn't come since then. We had both assumed I was pregnant. Hearing the doctor's words now, I actually felt relieved. Terminating an innocent life would have been a terrible thing to do. Now that it's a misunderstanding, I'm overjoyed. After leaving the hospital, I felt refreshed and decided to go to the supermarket to buy some daily necessities, as the disposable sanitary products in the hotel weren't very hygienic. Little did I expect to run into Xinjiao. Seeing the sanitary pads in my hand, Xinjiao mocked me. "Oh, you got rid of the baby so quickly? How heartless." Looking at Xinjiao's smug and arrogant expression, I gave her a disdainful look. I wondered who it was. "Oh, it's you. The third one? What? Kenny and I broke up. And he didn't let you take my place? Looks like he doesn't like you much either." Xinjiao's face turned pale. "Who are you calling the third one? If it weren't for your parents' death, do you think Kenny would have been with you out of guilt? You've been kept in the dark all these years. Don't you know who your bedmate is?" Before she could finish, she was interrupted by Kenny, who came charging in. My face turned pale. "Xinjiao, what do you mean? Finish what you were saying. What does Kenny have to do with my parents' death?" Kenny stood in front of Xinjiao, shielding her tightly, his eyes fixed on the sanitary pad in my hand, his throat trembling. "Su Qing, did you really hit the child? How could you be so cruel?" At that moment, my mind was spinning. All I could think about was what Xinjiao had said, that Kenny was with me out of guilt. And the words she hadn't finished, about being kept in the dark all these years. I looked up. What did she mean when she said I've been kept in the dark all these years? Not knowing who my own husband was? "Kenny, answer me." However, he didn't respond to my question, instead glaring at me with hatred in his eyes. "You killed our child with your own hands. Do you have any heart left? You make me feel sick." After speaking, his face was covered in disappointment. Xinjiao stood behind him, her face brimming with open defiance. "Kenny, she killed your child. Back then, your father was critically ill and needed blood urgently. But because her father didn't receive the blood transfusion in time, he missed the optimal window for treatment. Now you're even." She spoke casually, her eyes brimming with unhidden malice. In that moment, I felt as though I had been struck by lightning, frozen in place by Xinjiao's words. I couldn't believe that the man I had loved for 5 years was the son of the man who had indirectly killed my father. And yet I had regarded him as my savior. How ironic. How ridiculous. My face grew paler, and Kenny frowned, calling out to me, "Susie, I was with you out of guilt at first. But the more time we spent together, the more I fell in love with you." He took a step forward, reaching out to take my hand. All he got in response was a loud slap across the face. "Get out! Why didn't you just go all the way and kill me after you killed my parents? Why come back to pretend to care about me? Why weren't you the one who died?" Overwhelming hatred engulfed me. I gritted my teeth and glared at the couple in front of me, wanting to tear their skin off. Kenny was stunned by the blow, his face darkening. "Su Qing, how long are you going to keep this up? Did you ask my permission before hitting the child? Your parents' lives matter, but my child's life doesn't." His eyes were bloodshot, and his face bore the marks of the slaps I had given him. How ironic, he had deceived my feelings and now dared to blame me for not treating the child well. Don't even mention pregnancy. Even if I were pregnant, upon learning of Kenny's actions, I would have aborted the child without hesitation. I am Su Qing first, and everything else comes second. Exactly. How could a woman be so selfish? The child was unlucky to be born to you. Xinjiao watched the spectacle, not caring how big it got, and stirred the pot. I stepped forward, raised my hand toward Xinjiao, ready to give this pair of dogs the same treatment. Before I could strike, Kenny grabbed my hand and flung it away. I stumbled backward a few steps. "Enough! How did you become such a shrew? Back then, Smiths wronged you. Now you've hit the child. An eye for an eye. Come back with me now. Withdraw the money, and help the company through this crisis. I'll pretend none of this ever happened. You'll still be Mrs. Goo. If the morning's argument had already drained all the love I felt for Kenny, then everything I had just learned made me hate him with every fiber of my being. I won't go back with you. There's no future between us. As for your company, you're on your own. I suppressed the overwhelming hatred in my eyes, paid for my items at the counter, and quickly left the supermarket. Sitting on the hotel sofa, my thoughts kept returning to the details of the car accident that had claimed my parents' lives. At the time, the situation was critical. My mother suffered severe injuries in the accident and bled to death. My father was clinging to life, but since he had a rare blood type, it was extremely difficult to find a match in the blood bank. Coincidentally, that year, Kenny's father, Victor, had just undergone a heart transplant surgery. Everything seemed to align. Both my father and Victor had rare blood types. As a result, due to Victor's urgent need for blood, my father missed the optimal window for emergency treatment. After my parents passed away, the will they had made years ago took effect, and I inherited a large sum of money. Kenny also started treating me better around this time, actively comforting me, and eventually we ended up together. Everything that happened had its roots in the past. The things I had overlooked back then all made sense when Xinjiao mocked me. There was no time to grieve, all I wanted now was revenge. To make the Smiths pay for what they did. I opened my phone, found a number I hadn't contacted in a long time, and dialed it. I can invest money in your project, but in exchange, you have to help me take down the Smiths. The person on the other end laughed lightly. No problem. Deal. Kenny, since your company is in trouble and causing you distress, I'll give you a helping hand and make sure it goes bankrupt. That way, you won't be troubled anymore, you'll be desperate. I met Faye at a cafe, looking at the woman across from me, who bore a resemblance to Kenny. I ordered her a latte. I'll go to the bank to withdraw the money after I invest in this project. Can you confirm that Kenny's company will be completely bankrupt within 3 months? Faye smiled, her sensual red lips and wavy hair making her look alluring. Of course. The project Kenny is working on was actually my idea, but he doesn't know how to implement it, which is why the funding dried up. Faye's lips curled upward. He thinks that by kicking me out of Smith's, he can make the Gu family prosper? How laughable. I'll show Victor that in the face of absolute power. He'll see who he should really be nurturing. Faye, Kenny's older sister. She was Victor's former lover before he met his wife. Back then, Faye's biological mother sacrificed her life to expose their relationship. And under the pressure of societal norms, Victor had no choice but to bring Faye back to Smith's. However, it was merely a token gesture. Faye didn't have an easy life at Smith's, but she was intelligent. In terms of management and natural talent, Faye was more suited for managing the Gu family business. But Victor's preference for sons over daughters, coupled with his belief that Faye's status was illegitimate, led him to always keep her at arm's length. Until recently, when Faye proposed this brilliant idea, only to be fired and banned from the Gu family business by Victor. Everything she had worked for was now going to her brother. Faye finally lost all hope in Victor, which led to our collaboration today. I raised my glass. Let's work together for our common goal. I'll provide the funds, and you'll contribute your efforts. Let's collaborate smoothly. Faye acted swiftly. Within less than 2 weeks, she heard that Kenny's company was facing increasing difficulties. Several projects had been snatched away by a company named Fanxing, and there were also issues with taxes, which were being widely reported by major media outlets. When I saw these news reports on my phone, I was moving into my newly purchased house. Fanxing, meaning sailing far, was the name of Faye's newly registered company, in which I also held a stake. After parting ways with Kenny, I had expected a period of withdrawal. I thought I'd feel out of place and even cry. However, the reality was completely different. I picked up my old hobby of painting. I enrolled in an art class and spent my days shuttling between the studio and home. On weekends, I'd meet Faye for afternoon tea, and life was going smoothly. However, one evening, Kenny came looking for me. He looked haggard, with puffy eyes, clearly having not rested for days. "Susie, I was wrong. Please come back," he pleaded with me, his eyes red and teary. Looking at Kenny begging me like that, I was reminded of myself when I used to pursue him so desperately. It was a hot afternoon, and I was standing outside his classroom waiting for him, holding a bowl of mung bean soup I had just taken out of the refrigerator. He came out, and I shyly walked toward him, handing him the soup with a blush on my face. "Kenny, please take it. It's a gift from a young girl." "Exactly. You're so lucky. You just broke up with your ex, and now you've got a new girl." His roommates teased him, and Kenny hesitated for a moment. His hand slowly reached out toward me. Suddenly, a woman's voice rang out. "Kenny, I'm feeling unwell. Could you take me to the hospital?" It was Xinjiao. She was always spoiled and demanding. Once she set her sights on something, no one else could touch it, even if she didn't want it anymore. I bit my lip, looking at Kenny with hopeful eyes, hoping he would take the green bean soup from me. With so many people watching, I hoped he would give me some face. Xinjiao let out a ouch and crouched down, holding her stomach. Kenny's expression changed. The next moment, he withdrew his hand and walked toward Xinjiao. The two of them stood very close together. Xinjiao whispered something in his ear, and Kenny turned back toward me. My sinking mood immediately rose again, and I heard him say, "Give it to me. Xinjiao wants to drink it." Those words shattered my youthful pride. As if afraid I would refuse, Kenny quickly added, "Since you're giving it to me, it's mine now. It's my thing. I can give it to whoever I want. Isn't that right, Su Qing?" He reached out and snatched the lunchbox away. I was left standing there alone, facing the other students, their eyes darting back and forth. The tables had turned. I never thought that the once arrogant Kenny would ever come begging me. Would I be moved and forgive him for this? Of course not. There was my father's life between us. So I spoke calmly. "Our relationship is over. Since you were only with me out of guilt, breaking up is the best outcome." Kenny's face showed signs of hurt, but he still asked me tentatively, "You've loved me for so long. You're not being sincere, are you? You must still have feelings for me. This is the lowest point in my life. I can't live without you by my side. So you still want me to go back and be your free nanny?" After all, Xinjiao doesn't lift a finger, so she definitely won't cook for him 3 meals a day. Of course he'd think of me now. I gave him a disdainful look, my tone laced with sarcasm. "If you need someone to be with you, you can go live with Xinjiao. I've already moved all my things out." Kenny heard this and tears started falling from his eyes. "Susie, I was wrong. I shouldn't have gotten involved with her and missed out on someone who truly loves me." He spoke tearfully, his tone sincere. "It seems like Xinjiao and he aren't that close after all. But it's strange, when I was with Kenny, Xinjiao hated me and thought I had stolen her man. Now that I've let go, she hasn't taken things further with Kenny. Kenny is the same. When he was with me, he was always secretly hooking up with Xinjiao. Now that they can be together openly, he's turned around and is trying to win me back. What can I say? It's pretty pathetic. It really fits the saying, a whore deserves a dog, and they'll be together forever." Seeing that I wasn't moved, Kenny sighed and said slowly, "Susie, at least we loved each other. Even if you don't want to get back together, Can you lend me some money to help me resolve the company's financial crisis? Don't worry. I'll definitely pay you back. I'll return every penny. With interest. I burst out laughing. So that's where he was waiting for me. How shameless can Kenny be? I have no idea what he's thinking. I was speechless. Kenny, is there any possibility that the projects that were intercepted by Goo's company recently also had my contribution? Back then, you were so obsessed with scheming to take my money. And now I'm using it against you. After hearing what I said, his pupils dilated instantly, and his expression twisted for a moment. Why would you do that? We've been together for 3 years. You should know how much effort I put into running the company. It's precisely because I know how much effort you put in that I did this. I admired his expression, which was like a spilled paint palette. I continued. 3 years together plus the 2 years I chased after you, how much effort did I put into you? Have you ever thought about that? You ignored my efforts for the first 2 years. Using the things I gave you to win over Xinjiao. I thought we'd finally made it. But then Xinjiao told me you were only with me out of guilt. When the company faced a crisis, you proposed marriage. And your motives were impure, you wanted to use the money my parents left me to cover your company's debts. Kenny, how could you do this to me? His face grew paler with each word I spoke. His lips trembling, until he finally managed to utter 3 words. I'm sorry. Immediately, he dropped to his knees, lowering his body, and knelt before me. How ridiculous. The man I had pursued for 2 years was nothing more than this. It was my love that had gilded him, but without those filters. He was just a selfish, promiscuous, disgusting, ordinary man. I won't forgive you. And I won't lend you any money. If you insist on pretending to be so deeply in love, it will only make me find you even more disgusting. Kenny's kneeling body trembled slightly. Susie, it's my fault. I had a good life, but I chose to stay entangled with Xinjiao. I deserve this. Now I finally understand who truly loves me. I'll prove my love to you. It's Xinjiao who ruined our lives. She's the one who seduced me. He grew more animated as he spoke, his emotions escalating. More and more people gathered around us. Kenny didn't care about losing face. But I did. I left him behind and hurried upstairs. Standing on the 4th floor balcony, I saw Kenny still standing there. I pulled out my phone, took a photo, and sent it to Faye. Look at your shameless brother. Acting out a tragic love story here again? She replied quickly. Don't mention me. Late blooming affection is cheaper than grass. Haha. Well said. After chatting for a while, Faye told me that after Xinjiao realized Kenny's company might not improve, his attitude toward Kenny changed completely. No longer as gentle and considerate as before. They argue every day, either demanding the latest trendy bags or nagging him to take her to a beauty clinic for skincare. In the past, Kenny wouldn't have cared. After all, he had the ability to earn money. But times have changed. Kenny is struggling at work. And when he gets home, Xinjiao still complains and argues with him. 2 people who came together for mutual benefit are now arguing over it. How much love is left between them? It's hard to say. In the midst of the growing arguments, Kenny slowly started to remember how good I used to be to him. Men are like that. When they're with you, even red roses turn into mosquito bites. And they'll nitpick at everything. But the white moonlight becomes something they can't have. Once they get the white moonlight, they start missing the red roses. And the white moonlight becomes clingy. In the end, Xinjiao is certainly despicable. But the real culprit who drove our relationship to its end is Kenny. He wanted to have his family life stable and his social life vibrant. But in the end, it was all for nothing. After chatting with Faye, I took a shower and went to bed. Life went on as usual, and I continued to run back and forth between the art studio and home. My art teacher praised me for my rapid progress and said I was ready to graduate. Faye was thriving in her business, but Kenny's company announced that its cash flow had dried up, leading to bankruptcy and closure. Upon hearing the news, I was overjoyed. After finishing class that day, I went to the supermarket to buy my favorite ingredients and planned to cook a special meal to celebrate. Little did I know that an accident would occur on my way home. Xinjiao attacked me on my way back. And when I came to, I was already in the hospital. The first person I saw when I opened my eyes was Faye. She told me that after Xinjiao knocked me unconscious, he tried to take me away, but an elderly man who was out for a walk saw him. He quickly called over many other elderly people, and Xinjiao had to flee. It seems that giving the elderly people cardboard boxes and bottles has its benefits after all. Faye teased me. I smiled slightly. I just happened to give the cardboard boxes from the packages I bought to the elderly downstairs when I was throwing out the trash. The neighborhood where I live is an old one. I chose this place because it reminded me of where I grew up, making me feel safe. Plus, most of the residents are older, and seeing them feels like seeing my parents, giving me the sense that my parents are still by my side. Little did I know that, by chance, it ended up saving my life. Faye asked me again, should we call the police? Xinjiao's actions constitute intentional assault. I shook my head. It's not appropriate. I wasn't injured, so they can't press charges. The police would just give her a verbal warning. Xinjiao didn't get what she wanted this time. She won't give up. If I'm not mistaken, Kenny has cut ties with her, right? Faye nodded. Right. They've completely cut off contact. Kenny has blocked all of Xinjiao's cards, and he's too busy paying off debts to even bother with her. I pondered for a moment. So Xinjiao is blaming all of this on me. But she seems to have targeted the wrong person. A man doesn't want her anymore, she should blame him, not the woman he can't forget. To put it bluntly, you should beat the dog that eats shit, not stop others from shitting. It's still necessary to let Xinjiao know who she should hate. I can't just take this beating for nothing. Ugh. My head was still a little dizzy. I took out my phone and sent a voice message to Xinjiao. What did you send her? Faye leaned in to listen. I opened the recording, and Kenny's voice came through. Is it because of this? I was just joking. Xinjiao has been contacting me for the past 6 months, causing trouble for our relationship. To dispel her feelings for me, I said that on purpose. Once the child is born and we're married, it'll be too late for her to back out, and she'll naturally stay out of our relationship. That was indeed the recording of Kenny's excuses at the time. I wonder what Xinjiao will think when she hears this recording. I recorded the argument between Kenny and me back then with the intention of reminding myself not to soften my heart and forgive him. I never expected it would come in handy now. Let them fight it out among themselves. Let Xinjiao see Kenny's true colors. After all, he's been deceiving both of us. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, Kenny was brought in by an ambulance. Seeing his clothes stained with blood, I couldn't help but marvel at how ruthless Xinjiao was. As I expected, Xinjiao found Kenny with the recording and they got into a heated argument. In the midst of the fight, Xinjiao stabbed Kenny several times with a knife. One of the stabs seemed to hit Kenny below the waist. Seeing all the blood, Xinjiao was terrified and ran out of the house in a panic. Passers-by who saw her called the police, and Xinjiao was already under control. Victor, upon learning of his son's accident, suffered a heart attack from the shock and was also hospitalized. When I heard about this, Faye and I were at an aerial restaurant in Manhattan, eating steak and drinking red wine. Clink. The sound of our glasses clinking together. We smiled at each other. Congratulations. Now everyone who hurt you has received their just punishment. Faye cut a piece of steak and placed it on my plate. I put the piece of steak in my mouth and looked up at her. Does it hurt? After all, he was your own brother. And Victor was your biological father. Faye shook her head, a flash of sadness in her eyes. Ever since my mother died, I've had no family left in this world. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she gripped the knife and fork tightly. After a long moment, she lifted her head and gave me a bright smile. From now on, I'll be your family. I have no family left in this world either. Let's rely on each other and survive together. I handed her a piece of paper, and she took it. In each other's eyes, we saw sincerity. Two lonely girls, clinging to each other for warmth. We had no home, but we had a home. Faye and I still went to the hospital. Victor wanted to see her one last time before he died, and Kenny kept sending me messages. So I decided to accompany her. In the hospital bed, the emaciated and pale Kenny lay there. When he saw me push open the door and enter, his eyes lit up with a glimmer of light. Susie, I know you sent the recording to Xinjiao. I don't blame you. I deserve what I got. I was shocked by Kenny's attitude. I had thought he would blame me. Then Kenny spoke again. Does it hurt? Did you feel this much pain when you aborted our child? It seemed that after being stabbed several times, Kenny's conscience had awakened. However, I had never been pregnant, so I had never had an abortion. Kenny, when I went to the hospital to register, the doctor said I wasn't pregnant. He paused for a moment, then smiled and murmured, well, since you weren't pregnant, you didn't have to suffer. You didn't have to endure the pain. Seeing Kenny like this, I didn't feel any sense of revenge or pity for him. I just felt a deep sense of sorrow. Susie, if it weren't for Xinjiao, would we have gotten married and lived happily ever after as a family of 3? Kenny still believed it was someone else's fault. He blamed Xinjiao for clinging to him, but he had never truly reflected on his own issues. I interrupted him. Even if there hadn't been Xinjiao, there would have been Li Zhao or Sun Zhao. Kenny, what I mean is that the problem between us has never been about others, but about ourselves. We ended up here because you weren't committed enough to the relationship. Do you understand? He seemed to understand what I said, and his whole demeanor deflated. I understand. I'm sorry. Susie, can you come visit me sometimes? The doctor said my injuries are severe, and I may not have much time left. Kenny looked at me pitifully, showing the expression that used to melt my heart when we were in love. But my heart remained unmoved. Over time, I had already let go of this relationship. This is the last time I'll come to see you. Take care of yourself. Before I could see the disappointed expression on Kenny's face, I turned around and walked out the door. As I passed by Victor's ward, I heard whispers coming from inside. Actually, you look a lot like your mother. Fanner. I pushed the door open, and Victor glanced at me before turning his gaze back to Faye. I kicked you out of the house because seeing your face reminded me of your mother and my shameful past. When Victor said this, he seemed to have aged 10 years, with deep wrinkles etched into his face. Your shameful past was the happiest time of my life with Mom. I don't want to go back to Smith's. I just want to live with Mom. It was you who let your wife treat my mother so cruelly. You knew exactly what your promiscuity would do to her. Yet you couldn't control yourself. It was also you who abused your power to obtain all the rare blood type in Manhattan, causing Su Qing's father to miss his best chance for treatment. It was you who kicked me out of the company and used my hard work to build a future for your son. All because I'm a girl. Faye trembled as she spoke of the years of grievances she had toward Victor. Her voice choked with emotion. Victor opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but in the end, only 3 words came out. I'm sorry. After leaving the hospital, I went alone to the cemetery, bringing my mother's favorite daisies. I placed the flowers by the tombstone and touched the black and white photos of my parents. Mom and Dad. I've come to see you. I'm so useless. I stayed with someone who indirectly hurt you for so long. Do you blame me? But we've been separated for a long time now. Those who hurt our family of 3 have already faced their karma. Now I'm really accomplished. I've won awards for my paintings. And I've invested in a company. I receive dividends every year. So I don't have to work a 9-to-5 job anymore. I can visit you often. As I spoke, a tear fell onto the fallen leaves on the ground. I raised my hand to wipe it away. Mom and Dad, I have to go now. I'll come visit you again next time. 5 years later. Having just left the art gallery, I drove my Lamborghini to pick up Faye from work. Master Sue, you're amazing. Faye bought a bouquet of flowers from a flower shop by the roadside and gave them to me. Susie, congratulations on the successful art exhibition. I took the flowers. You're not bad either. Mr. Goo. Over the years, I persisted in painting and achieved remarkable results. Faye's company also grew larger and larger. We both shone brightly in our respective fields. Wishing you all the best.